The big question for this segment is, what are dissipative structures, and in what way is life a dissipative structure? All complexity in the universe needs energy to sustain itself, to increase its complexity, and even to come into existence in the first place. That is because maintaining and building complex structures takes work. If you have an evenly distributed amount of energy, like a dead battery in your TV remote, there is no flow of energy, and you can't do that work. One of the most prized physical laws in science is the second law of thermodynamics, which states that the total entropy of an isolated system always increases over time. Long after all others have been improved, revised, or chucked out, the second law will probably be considered ironclad. If your experiment casts doubt on any other physical law, you may need to refine your understanding of it. If your experiment defies the second law of thermodynamics, chances are you've simply screwed up the experiment. So why is it, in what is likely a closed system like the universe, that we see greater energy gradients emerge, rather than just entropy and disorder increasing all the time, everywhere? In short, why do we see the rise of further complexity at all? Well, this is where we get to dissipative structures, which are open systems operating within a closed universe, far from thermodynamic equilibrium, exchanging matter and energy with their environments. Let me unpack that statement. Thermodynamic equilibrium is the equal distribution of energy. It is when entropy is at its maximum. When this happens, there is no flow of energy, and no work can be done. Entropy is constantly rising in the universe, which is a closed system. A complex system like an organism, however, is an open system, which can take in new energy from the surrounding environment, food, water, sunlight, whatever that particular organism needs to feed itself and keep itself going. It is open because it is open to an injection of new sources of energy, whereas the universe is presumably not. As a result, while organisms can eat food and keep themselves far from thermodynamic equilibrium, the overall trend of entropy in the universe is still up. Thus, we see no defiance of the second law, despite the immense complexity we see all around us. An animal eats some food and has the energy to run around in search of more food, but some of that energy is ultimately used up in the work. There is some waste. And gradually, in the universe as a whole, energy is slowly but surely more evenly dissipated, and entropy rises. As a result, far from equilibrium complexity, like biological organisms, are at the same time entropy factories, driving the overall trend toward entropy in our universe. This goes right to the heart of what it means to be a living thing. No organism could go very long without having the energy to maintain the process of their body. A mammal, for instance, dies of lack of oxygen after a few minutes. It dies of thirst after a few days. It dies of hunger after, say, a few weeks. Thus, we are programmed by our instincts, embedded in our DNA, to actively seek out more matter and energy to keep ourselves going. This applies to the first bacteria that existed on Earth 3.8 billion years ago, to plants, to fish, to foraging humans. The entire cycle of evolution by natural selection is to keep these self-replicating complex structures going. It is also what makes life different from non-life. We are made of the same stuff, but we are programmed to actively extract energy from the environment. For instance, a plant has evolved to extract nutrients from the soil, grow out of the ground, and reach towards the sun in order to get energy from photosynthesis. A wolf has evolved to hunt prey in the wild, and has also evolved a strong stomach to take what it can from dead and rotten carcasses. And a human smushes a greasy burger and salty fries into their mouth, washing it down with a belch-inducing fizzy drink for much the same reason. We all need to extract energy from the environment to keep far away from equilibrium. If we do not eat or drink, we die. And the second law claims another victim. The same goes for society as a whole. The vast complexity that sustains all of our lives and conveniences, not to mention the health of human organisms in a population of billions, and the health of all the organisms that have become dependent on us, requires us to continue to extract matter and energy from the environment. This does not need to be destructive to the environment, per se, quite the contrary. But even if we adopted the most eco-friendly solar and wind energy sources to supply all of our needs, some of the energy we'd use would get dissipated and lost, and we'd still drive up entropy in the universe and play into the hands of the second law. A lot of the trials and tribulations of nature and human history, indeed the problems and challenges we face today, arise out of matter and energy. Whether it is the state of the biosphere, the farming of food, the politics of climate change, the yearly budget of a government for its country, or even the intricate monetary exchanges of global trade, it all goes back to getting enough matter and energy to sustain or increase our complexity. This is at the core of our concerns in modernity. Ultimately, on a long enough timescale, the second law always wins. Organisms die, civilizations collapse, and even the universe seems set on a course toward heat death, with no stars, no matter, and infinitely approaching total thermodynamic equilibrium in trillions upon trillions of years from now. In that sense, the fossils of dinosaurs, the skeletons of human beings, the ruins of ancient civilizations, and the remnants of dead stars are remarkably similar. They are all complex structures partaking in the deepest and longest-lasting struggle for existence, from which all other struggles descend, of which all our attempts to analyze and solve complex problems today is just one brief chapter.